Now, we know it's hard to get coppers at the moment. It's uniform across most of the country. So now the New South Wales Police are trying to work out how to keep experienced officers around longer, and they've come up with the idea of allowing them to work part-time and have permanent job share arrangements. Officers who want to work part-time at the moment still have to be classified as full-time, which means requests generally get knocked back because those hours not worked just disappear from the roster, which leaves them short, of course. You were in the force once upon a time, Evelyn. I can understand why right now they'd want to do absolutely everything to try and keep as many staff as possible. But does the job of policing potentially become difficult if you move to a more part-time workforce? Because, of course, you know, it may work in some sectors of the police force, but I would think in a lot of them, you actually have to be there every day because cases are ongoing and, you know, we can't just have people nipping off for half the week to do other things. Would this work?
Look, it can work for certain positions. Like, I was in a position when I decided, you know, my life didn't really suit the job that I was working at the time, and I nearly entered a part-time agreement, and it was so difficult for me to even get, you know, a look in through my chain of command for that. And it was like, because exactly what you said, as soon as somebody is part-time, they are still a full-time person. So essentially they get an employee working half the amount of hours, and then half the amount of jobs don't get done, and you can't fill the position because they're full-time. So this is definitely an answer to that, and there's definitely places within the police this could work. It also is interesting that this coincides with their about 39% pay rise. So you can almost work part-time for what you work full-time. I mean, why wouldn't you do part-time is the real thing. But, you know, I've always said I don't think the cops are particularly family-friendly. You know, I don't think they're really friendly on anyone. I did over 11 years and left, and I haven't heard boo from anyone. So it's like, you know, and same, like, I don't think it's particularly family-friendly, but I think that's the nature of the job. I wouldn't necessarily say it's the cops' fault. Sure, they could do things better, but I think it's also the nature of the job as well. This could be a problem for the community in that I know from experience, if you're working on a job, you have an OIC, an officer in charge, and a 2IC, a second in charge. The second in charge might be over things enough, but they're not the lead. And so if you're an OIC for a case and you're working 1 or 2 days a week and there's a victim at home, it would be very difficult to communicate, especially for crimes like I was a detective in, you know, child abuse and things like that. Those things, like, people want to be able to ring and speak to someone who knows the case when it's such a delicate matter. And so this could potentially be bad. I'm grateful for the mothers who perhaps can go back to part-time and be at home with their families more. This is a lot more family-friendly, but it does come potentially at the cost for the community. So that's something that will need to be considered.